habe hier gerade den Nachbarn umgebracht. Fühlt sich ehrlich gesagt gar nicht so besonders an, um ehrlich zu sein. Meine Hand blutet jetzt und das ist das Einzige, was mich gerade stört. Vielleicht locke ich noch einen Nachbar rüber und mache da das Gleiche.
The 9-year-old was stabbed several times. When police arrived, they can only determine that the boy is dead. Do you believe that there are people who are just pure evil? If you didn't, the case of Marcel Hesse might just change your mind. This vile monster not only killed 2 innocent people, including a 9-year-old boy, but he filmed his heinous crime and posted it on the dark web. Just how sick would you have to be to do something so depraved with zero remorse? Let's find out. Marcel Hesse was a 19-year-old teenager living in Herne, Germany. While not much is known of his early life, Marcel was living with his 22-year-old sister Sandy for about a year before he started his crimes. His parents had moved out and were living elsewhere. Sandy said that she had a normal relationship with Marcel growing up, but he had become strange and reclusive around his adolescent age, as he had very few friends. Also, a new side of him had started to emerge, a violent side. One time, he attacked his teacher with a pair of scissors, and another time, he chased his brother around the house with a knife. Major red flags here, huh? A side note, have you noticed a behavioral pattern when it comes to these kinds of cases? Most to-be killers have somewhat abnormal childhoods with weird behaviors, but nothing's ever done until it's too late. Anywho, according to Sandy, things started spiraling for her brother when he discovered the dark web of the internet. Now, you've probably come to know the dark web as a hotbed of shady criminal activities. It is. While not everything there is illegal, all manner of things happen here. I'm talking about drug trafficking, buying credit card numbers, guns, software that gives you access to other people's computers, hacking Netflix accounts. You get it. Really shady, right? In March 2017, Marcel sent an alarming text to his friend through WhatsApp, saying that he was contemplating ending his life. He asked his friend to help him choose between dropping a toaster in the bath or CO2 poisoning, to which the friend replied, "Both sound great." Marcel then sent the friend some pics containing a knife and some other items, and proceeded to ask the friend if that should be enough. The friend replied, "Have fun." Marcel then lightly replied that he isn't ending his life on that day, but on the next day. He went on to explain that if he doesn't off himself that day, he would do something jail-worthy. The friend didn't seem to care. Then Marcel asked the friend if he would want 4chan-worth pictures later, to which the friend replied, "Of course." Okay, clearly not your typical text exchange between friends. The friend here doesn't seem concerned about Marcel at all. Probably Marcel has done something like this before, and the friend didn't take him seriously anymore. Or it could be that since the two of them were frequent users of the dark web, their thinking had completely been desensitized. The friend asked Marcel why he wanted to end his life, and Marcel responded, "No more desire to have to work. It's obviously the only reason. I have to write my application soon, but meh." Marcel would later send disturbing images of himself with his hands all bloody, and one where he had just cleaned a bloody knife. Obviously, Marcel hadn't taken his life, so whose blood was this, and what was with the bloody knife? The answer is truly chilling. On Monday, March 6, 2017, Marcel did the unthinkable, a crime that would book him a place within the prison walls. At around 6 p.m., Marcel went and knocked on his next-door neighbor's house. The neighbors were a family of 5, comprising of a mother, Janet, her husband, Pascal, and 3 kids, Maurice, Stephen, and Jaden. On that day, the parents were out shopping and the boys had been left home alone. When Marcel knocked on the door, 9-year-old Jaden was the one that came to open. Marcel then asked Jaden if he could accompany him to his house to help him set up a ladder. Jaden gladly agreed. The poor boy had no idea of the horror that was waiting for him. Once at Marcel's house, the sicko teen lured Jaden to his basement, where he proceeded to stab him 58 times. Such kind of violence is usually common in crimes of passion, where the motive is personal, but this was totally uncalled for. It just goes to show you what kind of sicko Marcel was. What's worse, he filmed and uploaded the horrific crime to the dark web on a site known as Deeper Corpse. Seriously. Within the hour, Marcel also posted a video and a couple of photos of himself beside the lifeless body. The bloody pictures I mentioned earlier? Yeah, those were of this particular crime scene. Marcel would then proceed with his crazy messages. I can't seem to get the rope to work, but I just killed the neighbor, so it doesn't seem special now. My hand is bleeding and that's the only thing bothering me. Just cleaned the blood one off my shoes. Is stained, but it's fine. I think I will turn myself in after a few days and enjoy the jail life. Maybe I'll invite another neighbor over and do the same thing. I'd have 2 murders to my name then. I'd like to get a girl over so I can force myself on her. By the way, Jaden's insides feel really weird. I can pull them out of him. Ugh, God. Marcel would then conclude with a text saying that the murder was really easy and that he could turn that 1 murder into 2. He also stated that killing was easy once you got past the mental barrier. Marcel then told the friend to tune into the news the following day. What followed next is simply heartbreaking. When Janet and Pascal got home from shopping and found Jaden missing, they learned from his brothers that he had left with Marcel to his place. But it had been a while now since the pair left. Jaden should be back by now. Pascal rushed over to Marcel's house and frantically knocked on the door. There was no answer. He repeatedly yelled, knocked, and banged the door. Still nothing. Pascal was now panicking big time. He rushed home and informed Janet that nobody seemed to be home at the neighbors. Like Pascal, Janet had a very bad feeling about this. Her maternal instinct told her that something was wrong. Pascal wasted no time, and he and the other boys entered Marcel's basement through the balcony wall and saw what would sadly haunt them for the rest of their lives. Lying lifeless in a huge pool of blood was Jaden. Pascal's first instinct was to do something to save Jaden's life. He tried performing CPR on him, but it was too late. He would later say, "The image of my stepson lying there dead, I'll never forget this. I found him lying in a giant lake of his own." So sad. No parent should ever have to go through something like this. And the brothers, I really hope they never in any way blame themselves for allowing their small brother to accompany Marcel. Heartbreaking. Anyway, the frantic parents alerted the police, who soon arrived at the gut-wrenching crime scene and began their investigation. Around the time this was happening, police received a tip from a dark web user who claimed to know Marcel and reported that he just saw a boy get murdered on the internet. A massive manhunt for Marcel was immediately launched, with the police using all the available resources, including choppers, K-9 units, and troops of officers. The police also publicized wanted posters with Marcel's photo and full name. Yep, his full name. If you're wondering what the big deal is, it's a pretty big deal in Germany. Normally, only a person's first name and the initial of their second name are put out there. It's a law. Putting Marcel's full name in the media shows how urgent the situation was. What's more, children were asked to play indoors and schools were even closed. The police also warned the public that Marcel could be armed and good at martial arts. Now, you'd think that after the first murder, Marcel was done, but that would be far from the truth. In fact, his deranged killing spree was only getting started. While the police hunted for him, Marcel was already on his next victim. He posted on 4chan a time-stamped picture of a boot alongside a bloody knife and floor. Accompanying these photos, he said, "I skipped state, killed an adult woman really hard to use XP her. Daughter will come home soon. I might actually make a vid soon. I cut my hand fighting 120 kilogram beast. Had more vigor than the kid. I tortured the credentials out of her. Have access to bank PC and phone. So I cannot drop name yet." One dark web user was not buying it and asked for a timestamp with the body. Marcel didn't hesitate and proceeded to post a time-stamped image of a body. But this was not a woman's body, it was a man. Apparently, after Marcel was done butchering Jaden, he went to his friend Christopher W.'s home to lay low. 22-year-old Christopher had no idea what Marcel had done, so he innocently invited him in, and they had dinner and played computer games before turning in at 2 a.m. The next morning, Christopher recognized Marcel on TV as the killer on the run. When he confronted him, Marcel quickly grabbed a pen and stabbed him 68 times in the neck with it. His body was actually the one that he had posted on 4chan. He had lied about the dead woman. After killing Christopher, Marcel stayed in the apartment with the body for 2 days. Sick. He would then make a post on 4chan. "May get caught soon. Here's a statement." He proceeded to provide a link to a manifesto. Here's a bit of what he wrote. "There is a motive which I've stated, but neither will you press release it, nor probably accept it. Since such a meek cause doesn't warrant my actions, well, it was effective. I got what I wanted. I will not need to contribute to society by becoming an outstanding citizen. Economies work mostly by forced altruism, and I have 0% interest in taking part in sustaining something so useless." In his manifesto, he claimed that he killed 5 people, but it would later turn out to be a lie. On March 9th, 2017, Marcel, dressed in all black, walked into a fast food restaurant called Thessaloniki Grill. and asked the owner to call the police. The owner of the restaurant would later describe that moment, saying, "He came in here at 8:10 p.m. in black clothes with an umbrella and carrying a sack of onions in one hand. He said in a soft voice he was Marcel." "Which Marcel is that, then?" I asked. "Look on your tablet," he said. "You will see a picture of me there." The owner called the police, and 10 minutes later, Marcel was arrested without any resistance. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, an apartment was on fire. When the fire was put out, a body was discovered inside. Guess whose apartment it was? Yes, Christopher's. Marcel not only butchered his friend, but he set his house on fire as well, probably trying to cover up his tracks. He would confess this later. Hesse's trial took place in the western city of Bochum. Despite being below the age of 21, the court ruled that Hesse would be tried as an adult. This ruling came after a forensic psychologist told the court that the psychopathic, narcissistic, and sadistic elements found in Hesse's behavior were worrying, and therefore trying him on the juvenile court would be inappropriate. She also argued that at the time of his crimes, Marcel was not the same as a teenager, and that despite looking youthful, his personality was fully developed. Following this, the then 20-year-old was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to life in prison with a conditional preventative detention. In Germany, a sentence without preventative detention leads to automatic release after serving 15 years. The severity of Marcel's crimes warranted that he be given conditional prevention detention, meaning he would never be released until he had completed his sentence. Marcel accepted the sentencing. He took the verdict calmly. He had no illusions from the start. In the view of the crimes, mild penalties were not an option from the start. And he is realistic enough to recognize that. And that sealed Marcel's fate behind bars. After he was detained, a prison psychiatrist who examined him described Marcel as an absolute monster. What's more, Marcel's sister Sandy, on a jail visit, asked him if he regretted his actions, to which he replied, "No." This proves just how cold and monstrous Marcel truly is. This case is pretty disturbing and just shows how vile and evil people can be. Little Jaden and Christopher did nothing to Marcel, yet he brutally killed them just for the thrill of it. I'm just glad that he's now locked so he doesn't hurt any more people. Do you think anything could have been done to prevent Marcel from being a killer? And does the internet contribute in any way to such evils by providing a channel? Let us know in the comments section. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.